Hello and welcome to another standard video here in the new Avatar metagame. Today we're checking out this white, black and red or Mardu colored Demonic Pact deck. This 4-mana enchantment says at the beginning of your upkeep, choose one of these 4 modes that hasn't been chosen yet between dealing 4 damage to any target and we gain 4 life, can make our opponent discard 2 cards, could draw 2 cards ourselves, and last but certainly not least, you lose the game. So the idea with Demonic Pact is that you want to extract value out of the first 2 or 3 modes, and then at some point gift it to the opponent using cards like Harmless Offering or the new Iroh, and then with only one option left to lose the game, our opponent's going to be forced to choose it, and we get to win the game instead. And then besides Demonic Pact, another enchantment that we want to give to the opponent as soon as possible is Greed's Gambit, which when it enters lets us generate 3 2/1 flying bat tokens. We also draw 3 cards and gain 6 life, so that's a great way to stabilize. But the drawback normally is that at the beginning of our end step we have to discard a card, lose 2 life and sacrifice a creature. So after a few turns everything we've gained will eventually be gone, unless we can once again give it to the opponent, and then not only do we get the full value of the Greed's Gambit, but our opponent will slowly have to sacrifice their creatures, lose life, and discard cards from their hand. Now, the one potential danger with Greed's Gambit is if the opponent can destroy it as we're maybe trying to gift it to the opponent, because when it leaves the battlefield, no matter how it leaves the battlefield, we have to discard 3 cards, lose 6 life, and sacrifice 3 creatures. So it kind of undoes all the value it generated in the first place. So the sooner we can give Greed's Gambit to the opponent, the better. And that's where Iroh Tea-Master is incredibly helpful. A 2/2 creature, when it enters, makes a food token, and at the beginning of combat on our turn, we may have target opponent gain control of target permanent we control. When we do, we also get to make a 1/1 white ally creature token, put a +1/+1 counter on it for each permanent we own that our opponent controls. So initially it's going to be 1 +1 counter, but as the game goes on that might start adding up, since we've got a bunch of other permanents that we don't mind gifting to the opponent. Of course there's also the food token we can give them, so that can also help out. So by curving Iroh into the Greed's Gambit, we immediately get all those bad tokens, life gain and card draw, and then we don't have any of the drawbacks, whereas the opponent is now going to have to start sacrificing stuff, discarding, and losing life. And then of course there's also the fallback plan of Harmless Offering in case Iroh gets removed, to make the opponent gain control of target permanent we control. And then rounding out the deck, we also have some discard spells, which are important to make sure the opponent isn't holding a counter spell, or maybe some enchantment removal, or simply a removal spell for Iroh, which could slow us down. And then the rest of the deck is more interaction to try and survive long enough to assemble all these combos. At 1 mana there's Seam Rip, another enchantment that sticks around that we don't mind giving to the opponent with Iroh, since that doesn't really change the fact that their permanent got exiled. Sometimes it's even better to give it to the opponent, because then they may not be able to target it with their removal like Sheltered by Ghosts, which only exiles opposing permanents. Then at 2 mana, I do still have some instant speed removal here with Get Lost, which can hit creatures, enchantments, or planeswalkers. So if we do not get there with Harmless Offering or Iroh, I can still use my own Get Lost on my Demonic Pact, so we don't lose the game to it, and then we still get to generate some map tokens in the process, so that's nice. And then we've got more removal in enchantment form that will stick around on the battlefield. Momentum Breaker, even against a control deck, will still make the opponent discard a card, and then we can give it away with Iroh. And Nowhere to Run is another nice one that we can play at instant speed to shrink an opposing creature down, as well as ignoring Hexproof and Ward going forward, which we don't really care about if we were to give it to the opponent. And then at 3 mana, I also have 2 copies of Pinnacle Starcage to exile all artifacts and creatures with mana value 2 or less until it leaves the battlefield, so it's not going to hit many of our own permanents unless we maybe have some bad tokens from Greed's Gambit, so ideally we can avoid that, but otherwise a very effective answer to some of the go-wide decks in the format, thinking of all the green ramp strategies, and then we also don't mind giving it to the opponent once we're done with it, and then maybe still get some additional ally tokens from Iroh. And then, besides our 4-mana enchantments, we also have 2 copies of Besiege the Mirror. It is triple black, so it can be a little bit tough on the mana, which is why most of our lands can at least produce black. And then it also has Bargain, so as an additional cost to cast, we can also sacrifice an artifact, enchantment, or token, of which we have many. So we not only get to search up a card, but if its mana value is 4 or less, we also get to cast it for free. So that can give us another copy of Demonic Pact or Greed's Gambit, or if we already have those, we can find Harmless Offering or Iroh instead. and we can also maybe sacrifice a Demonic Pact to the Besiege the Mirror, so we have a lot of flexibility there. And then the mana base is a mix of all the Shock lands and Verge lands that are currently in Standard, so Godless Shrine and Sacred Foundry. Once we get Blood Crypt, that's probably going to get priority over Sacred Foundry, but we'll have to find the right balance to still support the double white for Starcage, while also supporting triple black on Besiege. So for now, Multiversal Passage can also fill that gap. Otherwise, we also have a few Surveil lands, which can give us a bit more card selection, while still enabling the Verge lands. We have 4 Bleachbone Verge, 4 Blazemire, and 2 Sunbillow Verge, as well as 2 basic Swamps in case we need to search them up. So yeah, that's our deck. Now let's jump into some games and see how the deck does. Okay, we're on the play. Our hand is missing one of our 4-drop payoff cards, but I think I can still try it. Got some good interaction. Can start with a Duress to try and protect Iroh. Opponent on the blue-red Lesson deck. So we'll take the Technique for now, which is helping them put an extra Lesson into the graveyard. And Gran we can answer in a few ways, but let's maybe go with a Nowhere to Run, since Momentum Breaker is potentially still an answer to the Serpent. Alright, since we drew another Iroh, I can donate my Nowhere to Run, since that's not doing me any favors. They could bounce the token. If they bounce Nowhere to Run, I get to control it back in my hand. So that would be fine. Opponent's just gonna pass a turn. Possible they have a counterspell in hand that they want to use. So it seems like a good window for a Duress. Opponent's gonna cast a Wisdom in response. So most likely a 3rd Lesson will end up in the graveyard. And I can only pick one of these. Opponent left with Serpent and Adimurk Crab. Currently 3 instants and sorceries in graveyard. So these still cost a total of 4 mana. So I guess next turn they could cast one already. For now I'm willing to donate a food and then keep the Momentum Breaker for next turn. And then we'll see if they want to flash in the Adimurk Crab. Then I can Momentum Breaker, make them sacrifice its 2nd main. They're just going to main phase the Serpent. Alright, that plays right into our Momentum Breaker now. And then I'm willing to give it to my opponent. Surveil, look for Demonic Pact. Or Greed's Gambit would be great. Opponent gets their speed up with a Canyon. So now they're forced to play the Crab. And yeah, I mean, I could donate a land at this point as well. See what happens. Just making sure to give a tapped land. Opponent does flash in the Crab, so they can mitigate some of the damage. They also have a food they can sacrifice to gain some life back. But I'll keep the other Iroh in hand. They're somewhat likely to draw into a removal spell here. Now Accumulate Wisdom will draw 3, a very nice payoff for the Lesson deck. Is this double Tolarian Terror? That would be bad for me. They currently have 2 blockers, so I might be able to still attack for lethal. Opponent's gonna pass a turn. Yeah, I guess I just donate another land here. And see what happens. Did it have a firebending lesson after all? So if I go for an all-out attack, they still seem dead to me. And there we go. Iroh T-Master doesn't need much help. On to the next one. Okay, we're on the draw with a keepable hand. So we've got our curve of discard spell, removal, Iroh into Demonic Pact. Although we will have to work through a few tapped lanes. Opponent blue-green, so maybe the ramp deck. So then I'm not in a hurry to cast Duress. But I might want to curve Momentum Breaker into Iroh, and then Greed's Gambit seems like another fine 4-mana play. Although I guess I do not have an untapped 4th land necessarily. I'll still keep it. Yep, there's Dreneth. So Momentum Breaker here seems reasonable. Alternatively, I can go tap land Duress, although Duress is pretty likely to miss. So let's just slow them down a little bit. Ideally draw an untapped lane, so I can still curve Iroh into a Greed's Gambit. Paw Patch with Offspring. Alright, we have the untapped lane, so now I feel okay playing Iroh. Giving them the Momentum Breaker. Keep the food for myself. But next turn we can maybe donate a Greed's Gambit. And our opponent will have to start sacrificing their creatures. It's a bit more impactful the turn we played compared to a Demonic Pact. But I'll gladly follow up with Pact afterwards. Of course, Ouroboros a good one too. Do not have an answer lined up. So yeah, I'll go with Greed's Gambit here. And maybe curving into another Greed's Gambit is gonna leave them without many creatures. Opponent is carefully reading the Greed's Gambit here. And Repulsive Mutation, just to give Ouroboros a million counters and grow the rest of the team. Yeah, that's a lot of damage coming my way. If I can make trades, I should. So I can trade for recruits, I cannot quite trade for both creatures. So then I think we'll leave it at that. They have to sack a creature to the Gambit. So then it's just going to be an Ouroboros left. Okay, can we beat Ouroboros? Probably go for another Greed's Gambit at this point, and then hope they can give a trample, and then we can pretty easily chum block. Could also Duress, since we have the spare mana, may as well, in case they have another Repulsive Mutation in hand. Well, they actually had Nature's Rhythm, they can still harmonize it out of the graveyard. So Gambit number 2. They can have that one. And I'm just going to leave all my creatures back, just in case I'll need them. Opponent's going to harmonize, get another creature, a second Ouroboros, perhaps. Well, they would have to sacrifice both end of turn. So that's fine. And our opponent concedes. Alright, Greed's Gambit gets it done. Okay, we're on the play. Our hand is functional. Just need to hit a few more land drops, ideally. And then we can Gambit, give it to my opponents. Get some interaction in the meantime, so we don't get run over by aggro. Turn 1 mountain. Yeah, I don't think I'm in a hurry to cast a Star Cage on turn 3, so may as well play a tap land, and then next turn I can always cast Nowhere to Run. Opponent plots a Slick Shot. Okay, so we'll need to keep up my removal at instant speed. Once we cast Greed's Gambit, I'll also have some flying blockers which can help. And now the Firebending Student, very scary if they have a way to increase its power. But I'll try and take it out end of turn, just to spend my mana. And then I can probably afford to cast the Greed's Gambit. I'll lose 1 bat. Alternatively, I can wait. For now, just cast Momentum Breaker, make them discard, and keep up Nowhere to Run. But we have this Harmless Offering lined up, so I think I still go for the Gambit. They can maybe burn one of the bats end of turn. I'll have to sack a second one, but I'll still have one left over. Ooh, Fire Magic was not counting on that one. That clears all of my bats. Fair enough. So I have to get rid of 1 card here. The rest still seems useful. Definitely need the Harmless Offering. Maybe Star Cage is not necessary. Can just answer their creatures one at a time. Student, opponent still hanging on to the Slick Shot, and Besiege. Well, this seems like a pretty straightforward Harmless Offering the Gambit, keep up Nowhere to Run and Get Lost. So they kind of have to go all in on the Student or deploy a second creature. Both are fine outcomes. Their opponent goes for the Slick Shot. Happy to take 2. If our opponent casts some more instants, we can always respond. Okay, take 2. And Torch, wow, sacking the enchantment with Bargain. That's another card you don't see in every red deck. Although they have to target their own Slick Shot, so they still lose one of their own. And our opponent still loses the Greed's Gambit. Yeah, I forgot. That still triggers, even if you sacrifice it yourself. So that did not quite pan out. Now the plan is probably Besiege. Sacrifice Nowhere to Run to get either Demonic Pact or another Greed's Gambit, and followed up with Iroh after we duress. But yeah, opponent scoops it up, that was too much of a blowout. On to the next one. Okay, we're on the draw with a functional hand. We have Gambit into Offering, some early interaction, so we hopefully don't get run over by this white aggro deck. Land number 4 I'll still need. Momentum Breaker also clean answer, even if they can give it hexproof. Opponent does have a backup creature. So now Star Cage is looking like a pretty nice answer, since we can clean up both of their creatures. Does mean taking another hit, but I can always get lost if things look bad. Could play a tap land, and then I don't have get lost up. But yeah, I'm probably gonna end up taking 2 more damage from this. So I think I play it tapped. And then we'll see if they commit another 1 or 2 mana permanents to the board. Something like Enduring Innocence would be a good play, because that one survives the Star Cage. So our opponent debating how much they want to go all out here. Just hits for 5. And a Survivor's acceptable. So they might still have a Shard Mage's Rescue in hand, but yeah, we don't really mind. Star Cage, clean everything up. They could eventually get their creatures back if they have Sheltered by Ghosts to exile the Star Cage, but then Get Lost can also get rid of the Sheltered by Ghosts. Okay, so could play Iroh first, and then immediately give them the Gambit, as opposed to Gambit and then next turn maybe Offering or Iroh. Yeah, I don't think we're super likely to lose our creature here. And then I could give them the Star Cage for what it's worth. I forget if Sheltered by Ghosts only targets opposing permanents. If so, they can't even exile the Star Cage. Okay, so don't even know if I want to attack first in case they can flash something in. Let's just play the Greed's Gambit. Can the rest to check if the coast is clear. And yep, there's both Sheltered by Ghosts, only exiles permanents an opponent controls, and the Shard Mage's Rescue, which I can take. You get a Greed's Gambit. I get to attack. And our opponent's gonna lose pretty quickly now to all our tokens. But yeah, between Nowhere to Run, ignoring the Hexproof and Ward, as well as Momentum Breaker, getting around some of their protection spells, means we have lots of pretty great answers for the matchup. So this one should usually go our way. We've got a second Greed's Gambit to give to our opponent once again. Alright, Seam Rip, exile one of my tokens. Opponent has to discard, play another one. We're being so generous today. And they're just gonna lose to the Greed's Gambit triggers end of turn. Discard, Offering. And there's Aerialist, which we can also take out with a Nowhere to Run, but we'll let the Greed's Gambit do the rest. There we go, sweet, on to the next one. Alright, we're on the play with a functional hand. We've got Duress to hopefully protect Iroh. Could fire it off turn 1. Sure. Although the longer I wait, the more likely our opponent is to draw into another removal spell. Turns out they have double shock, so they have another answer lined up. So we'll need to draw some removal here. Seam Rip is decent, although it's going to cost me 2 life. So yeah, going Tapped Godless Shrine, turn 2, Duress plus Seam Rip would have worked out a little bit better. Alright, opponent drew a Challenger, so they can keep up the pressure. So if I play Iroh, there's no way he survives. I can gift a Seam Rip and at least get a token out of it. But yeah, our opponent just has a way too efficient turn with Slick Shot plus Shock. So what's my alternative here? Do nothing. That doesn't sound great either. Play the Gambit. I'll lose a bat, and then the turn after, I hope they're tapped out. They'll maybe have used a Shock on a bat, and then I can still gift it. That might be my best hope here. But yeah, if they only had the one removal spell, this would have worked out beautifully. Small chance they cast an instant just to trigger Prowess. So now we gotta hope they didn't draw more burn spells. Alright, Duress. So a tricky spot. I imagine it's still Greed's Gambit. Could go Duress plus T-Master, gift a Seam Rip. Like I said, the ally can trump Challenger. And then I should be able to survive one turn of Slick Shot, and then we can immediately gift the Gambit. Does have its upside here. Let's try it. Opponent just had lanes. Well, just gotta hope to dodge a top deck now. The food token also represents 3 life. They did not play Sacred Foundry, so they must have drawn something. Boros Charm my face. Okay, so I'm at 1 here. That works for me. Because we're about to gain 6. And give you the Gambits. Make a token, and I may as well attack now. Got another 3 life in store. And our opponent concedes. Alright, just needed 1 good Iroh turn to get it done. On to the next one. Okay, we're on the play with a functional hand. Got our early interaction, probably don't need another Get Lost. The rest could be useful if our opponent does have answers for Iroh. And then we'll still need a second black source. So Grixis Colors, not exactly sure what to make of it, let's play it slow. Overlord's fine. Could technically Get Lost it, but opponent Grixis Reanimator. Yeah, that could be a tough one. Found my extra black source. So what are the odds that Iroh survives here? Pretty low. They probably have a Bitter Triumph to take him out. So then, I mean, what's the alternative? Just do nothing? I'll still give it a try. Also, it's not like I immediately need to give Demonic Pact to my opponents. So it's fine if they answer Iroh. But yeah, the question is, can we survive Kevero getting a bunch of stuff back from the graveyard if they have Bringer of the Last Gift to reanimate? And the answer is probably no. Scholar will draw and discard. And discard a Winter Night Stories. Alright, so no Bringer just yet. So what's next? Can know where to run. Keep up Get Lost. Wait another turn on Demonic Pact. Or I can play the Pact. There's nothing I really want to give to my opponent with Iroh is a problem there. But Pact is our actual win condition, so maybe I should get it down to get that going. And then I'm not going to bother attacking. So we can decline, no attacks. At least get 1 or 2 triggers before gifting it. And because we have Harmel's Offering, I'm not afraid of losing the ability to do so. So now it's just a matter of surviving a few more turns. Alright, Tersa once again goes discarding. Discards Kevero and lands, so they must have another Kevero in hand already. Okay, yeah, I'll just take 5. Is this a Torture Tower? It is. Iroh down. Would have preferred to keep him around. Alright, so now what are my options? Probably want to deal 4, gain 4. Take out Tersa. And then I can still play a bunch of removal if needed. Sure. I have things I can do with my mana, so I'm not necessarily in a hurry to draw to. So, yeah, just go tap land. Could offer the trade, don't have to. Let's just pass. Trying to get into damage doesn't really matter when Pact is our win con. Although we do have to watch out for another potential bargain card like Torch sacking the Demonic Pact, which would complicate matters. So for now I can take 2. Maybe they cast Winter Night Stories, opponent's not even gonna bother. In that case I'll draw 2 in the hopes of hitting a Duress. Okay, can Surveil. There's a Duress. So next turn I can Duress into Offering. And for now I just need to survive whatever's happening next. So our opponent kind of wasted their mana last turn. Now they have Terza. 3 mana remains, so we'll see what they discard. Discards Arden. And now I will know where to run Terza. Fine, taking 2. The only concern would be them having multiple Tortured Towers in hand. And another Scholar, so yeah, opponent's tapped out. Can also make them discard 2 now. And I guess we can get rid of the Overlord as well. So opponent discards 2. So yeah, it's strange that they got rid of Kavero and didn't have a backup. Bitter Triumph Kavero, so they just never cast it. What is your last card? I see Into the Floodmaw, so they were planning to bounce the enchantment, but you cannot bounce Demonic Pact if you're the one controlling it, I believe, so that would not have worked. And yeah, no need to do anything else. Opponent's gonna choose to lose the game. And that's it. GG's. On to the next one. Alright, we're on the draw. We have a functional hand, removal, Iroh, Demonic Pact. Let's get this tapped Godless Shrine into play. They do seem to have a burn spell in hand, so Iroh is not safe. Zhao, yeah, non-basics enter tapped. That is super relevant here. Can answer it next turn. And Nova Hellkite is another 4 damage. And a Duress, so I could first go for a Momentum Breaker, and then still Duress. Maybe take away their only burn spell. Okay, I see. O'Hare Ashonil, that's a scary one. And then both Lightning Strike and Burst Lightning. I think I actually take the Burst Lightning, since it's easier for them to deploy. They get to play their god. I can remove it with a Get Lost. Although I don't actually have a great answer for the Hellkite, if I do. So maybe I do actually play Demonic Pact, tank what could be 8 damage, but then the turn after I get to deal 4, gain 4, which can try and stabilize me. Making them discard 2 cards could also be relevant, but I probably need to deal with their current threat. Burst Lightning, uh-oh, I could be dead here if they drew another Burst Lightning. I'm at 2. Okay, so we're still in it. Deal 4, gain 4. That transforms. I can keep up a Get Lost now if I'd like. Yeah, I'm not gonna gift the Demonic Pact just yet. Question is if I play another one. I mean, my opponent can play Hellkite, but that should be fine. Yeah, I think we play another Pact. Get that going. And then turn after I can keep up Get Lost again. We'll probably draw some cards as well. Because yeah, they didn't have another Burst Lightning last turn, so it's not like they can go Hellkite, land, Burst Lightning. There might be another combination that kills me. Just a Hellkite, that's fine. So, what do I go for here? Probably my opponent discards 2. And then I'll deal 4, gain 4, just targeting my opponent. Could also draw 2 myself, but I feel like I should make them discard. And then get out of burn range. Did another O'Hare and a Hardclaw, which could have been relevant with the Rockface Village. Land is actually useful, because that allows me to play Iroh and keep up Get Lost. I don't think I gift the Demonic Pact yet, because I can still get some use out of it. But I can gift the Momentum Breaker, which I don't really care about too much. And I can also sack the food if I'd like. Opponent drew Hardclaw, which they can haste. So at this point, do I just know where to run it? Yeah, I mean, I'll take 4, that's fine, I'll be at 2. And then I get to draw 2, gift the Demonic Pact, and in their upkeep, before they can draw another burn spell, they'll be dead. So yeah, this doesn't really matter whether I know where to run or get lost. Bonus sacks Momentum Breaker, that's fine. So I will draw 2 and draw 2 again. Alright, so options aplenty, but just make sure to gift the correct Demonic Pact. And before they can take a draw step, they'll be forced to lose the game. So yeah, very close one here, but Iroh gets it done, and we get to rank up once again. So yeah, this Mardu Demonic Pact / Greed's Gambit deck seems revitalized now with Iroh, giving you a way to potentially curve Iroh into Greed's Gambit to immediately give it to the opponent, which is a lot better than having to wait a turn with a Greed's Gambit in play and having to discard a card, sack a creature and lose 2 life, which kind of mitigates the effectiveness. So definitely a fan of Iroh in this archetype. We'll have to wait and see if it catches on, but for now it seems at least like a fun tier 2 or 3 option that can maybe catch some opponents off guard. Of course, in best of 3, you'll have to potentially deal with opposing enchantment hate or discard spells that can slow you down, so things will get a bit more difficult there. But yeah, for now, I want to thank you for watching, hope you enjoyed, and as always, have a nice day.